Yeah. So chapter 15 we will begin today. It's called Purushottam Yoga, the yoga of the Supreme Person. Yeah. Om Ajnanatimiraandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Lagunadhanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna everyone. So chapter 15 has 4 sections. It's a very small chapter. We'll complete in 3 to 4 classes. It's called, the title is The Yoga of the Supreme Person. It has these 4 sections. The first section talks about becoming detached from the material world. How we can detach from this material world. The reflection of the spiritual. The material world is actually a reflection of the spiritual world. Right? So we'll understand how it is a reflection of the spiritual world. Second section is Purushottam Yoga. It talks about how the living entities transmigrate from one species to the other. Third section, Krishna's position as the maintainer. How Krishna is the maintainer of all living entities in this existence. And the last section, the 3 shlokas, summarizing the Vedas and Vedanta kinds of living entities. Yeah. So we'll go one by one. So the first section will focus on how we can detach ourselves from the material world. What understanding do we need to detach ourselves? Let's begin with Shri Bhagavanu Vacha
Sri Bhagavan
Vacha
Urdhvamulam Adha Shakham
Buddhamulam Adhasakam
Ashwadham Prahuravyayam
Aswadham Prahur Avyayam
Chandamsi Yasya Parnani
Chandamsi Yasya Parnani
Yastam Veda Saveda Ved.
Yastam Veda Saveda.
Okay, please read the translation.
Okay, Prabhuji. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, it is said that there is an imperishable banyan tree that has its roots upward and its branches down, and whose leaves are the Vedic hymens. One who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas.
So here Krishna is giving a allegorical example or an example through which he is trying to explain the material existence. Okay, what is the example he is taking? banyan tree. You all know banyan tree, having come from India. We all know it's a huge tree. And banyan tree is primarily famous for its roots. The roots are deeply spread into the earth, and it is very intertwined. It's very much intertwined. So this material world is also like that. But there is one difference. But the material world is like a banyan tree with its roots upward. Generally, a tree has root at the bottom, right? And the branches and leaves on the top of the tree, correct? The branches are in the tree, leaves are on top of the tree, but roots are inside the earth, correct? But this banyan tree that Krishna is describing has its roots upward and branches and leaves downward. Have you ever seen a tree with roots up, branches down? Anybody?
No, Prabhuji.
Yeah. So where is it possible to see a tree with its roots upwards and branches downwards? Any thoughts? Suppose the tree is reflected in a river water. Okay. If a tree is reflected in the river water, and if you're seeing from the other side, it looks like in the water, it looks like the roots are at the top, branches are at the bottom. Correct or not? Do you all agree?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Suppose there is a tree, there is a river, and you are seeing from this side, you see the tree, but if you see in the water, what do you see? You see the roots first and the branches at the bottom, correct? Roots at the top and branches at the branches and tree leaves at the bottom. So an imaginary tree with its roots up and branches at the bottom is visible in a reflection, not in the reality, but in a reflection. Is it making sense? So Krishna is describing the reflection, not the real tree. Okay. So what Krishna is trying to explain here is the material world where we live in, it is actually a reflection. It's not the reality. What is the reality? Reality is actually the spiritual world. In the spiritual world, everything is eternal. People are living there eternally. And the relationships between people are eternal. And everything about spiritual world is eternal. But in the reflection, the material world, the whole material existence is like the reflection of the spiritual world. And so nothing real exists here. Everything here is temporary, right? So when Krishna is describing the tree with its branches downwards and roots upwards, he's actually describing the nature of the material world where we live in, the material universes, right? Where Brahma is the predominating deity. So within the material world, whatever exists is actually a reflection of what is there in Vaikuntha. Vaikuntha is so if you are walking, you are there, and also suppose you are under the sun, you also have a shadow, right? Shadow is always there along with you. Shadow, if you move your hand, your shadow moves. If you turn your head, your shadow moves. So the shadow is always following you, and shadow is not your reality. but it is a reflection of your reality, right? Shadow has much less attributes than who you really are, right? So similarly, the material existence we have right now, all the material world, it is more or less like a reflection of the spiritual world. The reality is in the spiritual world. The reflection is the material world. So that's why there is so much suffering in this world, because it is designed to be reflection, right? Suppose there is a mango tree on the shore of a river, okay? It has nice, beautiful red mangoes, okay? And they're all ripe. You can just cut and eat, and it's very tasty, okay? But somebody saw the mango tree from the river, on the river water. He saw the reflection of the mango tree on the river water. Now he's seeing, these mangoes, big sized mangoes in the river water, because it's a reflection of the actual tree. Now he's trying to catch it and take it and eat it. Does it ever fulfill his, hunger? When he's trying to, catch the mangoes in the water instead of the real tree on the mango tree?
No, Prabhuji.
Yeah, because why? Why he cannot really satisfy himself when he tries to eat the mangoes in the river water?
Because they're not real.
They're not real. They're just a reflection. They are not the reality. Correct? So similarly, the material world is a reflection of the reality. So here also, it appears like we can be happy in this world. You can do that and you can be happy. You win IIT seat, you can be happy. You get a good job in Microsoft, you can be happy. You get children, you get married, you will be happy. But it is always like a carrot before the ass. It always appears as if it's only like, you are only like half-inch away from your carrot and you can be happy. But it is never that you are happy in this world. You're always after something or the other, looking for better experiences, better provisions, right? So that is how material world always operates. Whatever you feel, whatever you think you can be happy with, you, as soon as you get it, suppose you desire to get a nice home, okay, with all the provisions, doesn't mean you have it and you are happy. Once you get in, you will get some backache, and then some other problem or some other issue. Your children has to pass in the test, or they have to settle, they have to marry, they have to get children, they have to. So it's first your life, and then your children life, and then grandchildren life. So in this way, you always have something to achieve. You're never satisfied in this world. That is the way the whole existence is created. The material world is created in such a way that you are never satisfied if you lead a material life, right? So that is why this existence is like a reflection, just like this banyan tree's reflection. So one who understands, one who knows this tree, means one who understands the nature of this material existence. He is the actual knower of the Vedas. So if you want to say, hey, I understand Vedas, the essence of the Vedas. If you understand the essence of Vedas, you should come to a conclusion that this material existence is like a reflection of the reality of spiritual existence. And I should be seeking after spiritual existence, not the material existence, because everything in this material world is temporary and nothing is going to satisfy. And you're always in hankering mode. Only when you turn to the reality, if somebody catches the real mango, then only he can satisfy. As long as he is in the water trying to search for mangoes, he will never get the mangoes and he will never satisfy his hunger. So living in the material world on the material platform is like somebody searching for those mangoes in the water. The reflection of the mangoes in the real water, in the water. You'll never find them. Everything is going to be attractive. Oh, that mango. If only I get that mango, you see that mango reflection somewhere. That is the thing. If I get that, I'll be happy. That's how you think all your life. But you will never get that. You get that, you think that you got it, but then again, it's not the one that you are really after. Happiness is the elusive factor in this material existence. As long as you don't change your perception of what is real, right? You hear clearly again. You need to change the perception of what is reality. When you come to an understanding of what is reality, then you can experience some real happiness. So the essence of Vedas is to understand the reality of existence and the reality of what is the truth, absolute truth, ultimately, right? Yeah, please read this.
The entanglement of this material world is compared here to a banyan tree. For one who is engaged in fruitive activities, there is no end to the banyan tree. He wanders from one branch to another, to another, to another. The tree of this material world has no end, and for one who is attached to this tree, there is no possibility of liberation. The Vedic hymns meant for elevating oneself are called the leaves of this tree. The tree's roots grow upward because they begin from the Brahma is located, the topmost planet of this universe. If one can understand this indestructible tree of illusion, then one can get out of it.
So the material existence starts with Brahma's creation. So the whole 14 planetary system is actually this banyan tree, the reflection of the banyan tree, right? So that's what is explained. The tree of this material world has no end, and for one who is attached to this tree, there is no possibility of liberation. One who is attached to the things of this material world, there is no liberation for him. Yeah, please read this.
The process of extrication should be understood. In the previous chapters, it has been explained that there are many processes by which to get out of the material entanglement. And up to the 13th chapter, we have seen that devotional service to the Supreme Lord is the best way. Now, the basic principle of devotional service is detachment from the material activities and attachment to the transcendental service of the Lord. The process of breaking attachment to the material world is discussed in the beginning of this chapter. The root of this material existence grows upward.
The root of this material existence grows upward. Yeah, because it's a reflection, it's not reality. Yeah. So Prabhupada explains here how this material world is. So he here explains that such a tree exists in the besides a reservoir of water. Yeah, you don't need to read. Let's. This is all covered already. Yeah. So yeah, you can read from this.
This tree, being the reflection of the real tree, is an exact replica. Everything is there in the spiritual world. The impersonalists take Brahman to be the root of this material tree, and from the root, according to the Sankhya philosophy, come Prakriti, Purusha, then the three gunas, then the five gross elements, Pancha Mahabhuta, then the 10 senses, the Sendriya, mind, etc. In this way, they divide up the whole material world into 24 elements.
Hmm. So Prabhupada explained what all exists in the material world. Yeah. Yeah. So read this.
The material world is the perverted reflection, so the spiritual world must have the same. How do you pronounce it?
Variegatedness. But
Variegatedness, but in reality.
so the difference between material world and spiritual world is that spiritual world is the reality. Material world is just like a perverted reflection, just like this banyan tree reflected on the bank of the river, right? It looks, it has all this variegatedness in the middle world. Also, you'll hear relationships, you have happiness, misery, so many kinds of experiences. Everything is there, but it's a perverted reflection. It's so in the spiritual world also such relations and everything exists, but that is the reality. And you there everything gives happiness. Here everything gives misery. That's the difference between the two. अदाश्चोर्ध्वं प्रसृतास्त्स्य शाखा
तदाश्चोर्ध्वं
गुण प्रवृद्धा विषया प्रबाला
Guna pravardha vishaya pravala
अधश्च मूलानि अनुसन्ततानि
adasya mulani anusantatani
कर्मानुबन्धीनि मनुष्यलोके
karma anubandhini manushaloke.
Please read. Anyone?
The branches of this tree extend downward and upward, nourished by the three modes of material nature. The twigs are the objects of the senses. This tree also has roots going down, and these are bound to the fruitive actions of human society.
So Lord Krishna is further explaining the nature of this banyan tree, which is a reflected version of the perverted reflection version of the actual existence in the spiritual world. The branches of this tree extend downward and upward. So just like in a tree, some branches are downward, some branches are upward, right? Nourished by the three modes of material nature, right? Everything is managed by the modes of material nature here in the material world, right? So that is a very important principle in the material world. Modes of material nature do not exist in the spiritual world. It only exists in the material world. The twigs are the objects of the senses. The twigs, they are the objects. So senses are always trying to enjoy these twigs because, you know, there exist all these objects of senses in the material existence. And this tree also has roots going down, and these are bound to the fruitive actions of human society. So some roots are upward, some roots are downward also. We'll understand more here. Yeah, so here read about the twigs and roots and everything. Yeah, please read.
The twigs of the tree are considered to be the sense objects. By development of the different modes of nature, we develop different senses. By the senses, we enjoy different varieties of sense objects. The tips of the branches are the senses, the ears, nose, eyes, etc., which are attached to the enjoyment of different sense objects. The twigs are sound, form, touch, and so on, the sense objects. The subsidiary roots are attachments and aversions, which are byproducts of different varieties of sufferings and sense enjoyments. The tendencies toward piety and impiety are considered to develop from these secondary roots, which spread in all directions. The real root is from Brahmaloka, and the other roots are in the human planetary systems.
Yeah, the real root is from Brahmaloka and the other the human planet systems. Yeah. So all these, just further description of the the banyan tree of material existence, with some going up, some going down. Yeah. So this is the nature of the material world. Narupam asyeha tatopalabhyate. Narupamasyeha tatopalabhyate.
न
रूपम
रूपम्
अस्येह
अस्येह
ततोपलभ्यते
ततोपलभ्यते
Nanto na chadir na cha sampratishtha.
नान्तो न
नातो न
चादिर्न च
चादिर्न च
सम्प्रतिष्ठा
सम्प्रतिष्ठा
Ashvattamenam suviruddha moolam.
अश्वत्थम्
स्वतम्
एनं
एनं
सुविरुधा मूलम्
सुविरातं मूलम्
Asanga sastrena dhridena chitva.
असङ्गशस्त्रेण
सङ्गशस्त्रेण
दृढेन
दृढेन
चित्वा
चित्वा
Padam tat parimargitavyam.
तथा
तथा पदं
पदान्तात् परिमार्गितव्यम्
तत्परिमार्गितव्यम्
Yashmin gatana nivartanti bhuya.
यस्मिन्
यस्मिन्
गता न
गता न
निवर्तन्ति भूया
निवर्तन्ति
Tamev chadhyam purusham prapadye.
तमेव
तममेव
चाद्यं
चद्यं
पुरुषं
पुरुषं
प्रपद्ये
प्रपद्ये
तथा प्रवृत्ति प्रसृता पुराणी.
यथा
यथा
प्रवृत्ते
प्रवृत्ति
प्रसरता
प्रसाद
पुराणे.
पुराणे
The real form of this tree cannot be perceived in this world. No one can understand where it ends, where it begins, and where its foundation is. But with determination, one must cut down this strongly rooted tree with the weapon of detachment. Therefore, one must seek that place from which, having gone, one never returns, and there surrender to that Supreme Personality of Godhead from whom everything began and from whom everything has extended since time immemorial.
So we are all in this banyan tree, which is inverted in this middle existence. And nobody understands fully this whole material existence, how it operates. The real form of this tree cannot be perceived in this world. No one can really see what it is. No one can understand where it ends, where it begins, and where its foundation is. No one knows. But with the determination, one must cut down the strongly rooted tree with the weapon of detachment. So those who are living in this material world understand that this tree or this material existence, everything here is just temporary, and it's a perverted reflection of the reality. One should understand and be detached with the things of this existence, this material existence. Thereafter, one must seek that place from which, having gone, one never returns. Right? So that is basically saying that one should seek after the spiritual realm, spiritual world. Having gone, one never returns. Once you go there, you will never come back to material existence again. So for that, there one should surrender to the Supreme Lord, from whom everything began and from whom everything has extended since time immemorial, right? So one should basically surrender to the Supreme Lord. So while living in this world, understand that you cannot really fully understand the nature of this world, why it is working this way, why it is working that way. But your true weapon is detachment. You should stay detached in this world. Meaning, how do you express detachment? You are not emotionally attached to anything in this world, right? You may have so many things, your job, your family, your kids, so many things are there. But you should operate in this world as if you come here temporarily and you're doing your duties and give and going back, right? You're not here permanently. So that detachment is necessary, right? So without that detachment, one cannot cut this strongly rooted tree. Thereafter, one must seek that place from which, having gone, one never returns. First, maintain detachment and develop attachment to the achieving the absolute truth, right? Desiring to go back to God and never return, and there surrender to the Supreme Lord, from whom everything began and from whom everything has extended since time immemorial. So everything in this world, right? So everything in this world comes from there, that highest reality. So one should seek to the Supreme Lord and go back there. And one should not desire to come back to this material world again. Since the root is upwards, the extension of the real tree is at the other end. Yeah. So this is about the material existence. Yeah. Can anybody read?
Yes, Prabhu. When entangled with material expansions of the tree, one cannot see how far the tree extends, nor can one see the beginning of this tree. Yet one has to find out the cause. I am the son of my father. My father is the son of such and such person, etc. By searching in this way, one comes to Brahma, who is generated by Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. Finally, in this way, one reaches the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the end of research work.
Yeah. So if one tries to understand the root of this, inverted banyan tree, so they'll go in this path of, okay, the first, the universe began with Brahma, and Brahma is born of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. So in this way, one can do research and come to, some kind of understanding. But again, it's never perfect when you try to understand these things mentally, right? Yeah. So please read this.
The word asanga is very important in this connection because attachment for sense enjoyment and lauding it over material nature is very strong. Therefore, one must learn detachment by discussion of spiritual science based on authoritative scriptures, and one must hear from persons who are actually in knowledge. As a result of such discussion in the association of devotees, one comes to the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
One must hear from persons who are in actual. How do you get detached? It is by coming in satsanga like this, like all of us came together. And when we read together, when we study together like this, then the detachment slowly develops. We may not become perfectly detached overnight, but over a period of years, one should, ideally develop some detachment from the. So that is the only way. By association alone, one can develop detachment. This is a very famous verse. Nirmana moha jita sanga dosha.
Nirvana Broha Sanga Dosha
Dosha
Adhyatma nitya
Kama
Adhyatma Nitya
Nitya
Vinivratha Kama
Vinivasta Kama
Manvai vimukta sukha dukkha samgair.
Dvandve
Dvaira
Vimukta
Vimukta
Sukadukha
Sukadukha
Sande
Samvai
Gachanti amudha padam avyayam tat.
Gachanti
Gachanti
Amudha
Hamudha Padam
Padamavyayam
Avyam Tat
Read.
Those who are free from false prestige, illusion, and false association, who understand the eternal, who are done with material lust, who are freed from the dualities of happiness and distress, and who, unbewildered, know how to surrender unto the Supreme Person, attain to that eternal kingdom.
So Krishna is explaining who in this banyan tree or the material existence is eligible to go back to Godhead? The qualities are: one has to be free from prestige. He should not think he is better than others. He deserves some respect, like that. Second thing is illusion. Right? Illusion means so many nonsense things many people do, like they just bunk the school and go to go to cinema hall, or like there's so many things, not just one or two. Some people skip the test if you're not watchful. So like that. Yeah. So there are so many dualities like that. Yeah. So false prestige, illusion, and false association. False association means bad association. We all have, experience of bad association. Sometimes we get spoiled because of bad association. We all heard in colleges, children youth who go to college get spoiled because of bad association. While the good association gives you good qualities, good habits, bad association gives you bad qualities and bad habits. Right? So one has to be free from false prestige, should not think he is better than others, should be free from illusion and false association. False association means associating with materially minded people who are only seeking after material things, who understand the eternal, who are done with material lust, who understand the eternal, who are done with material lust, who are freed from dualities of happiness and distress, right? Not disturbed by happiness or distress. He sees everything equally, and who, unbewildered, know how to surrender unto the Supreme Person, attain to that kingdom. Yeah. So, yeah. So should be unbewildered, means he is not confused by anything that happens in this world. He knows very well how this material world is very dangerous and can be very sometimes very stressful, right? It can be bewildering. So he's never bewildered because he knows his expectations are very, very thoughtful in this world. He doesn't expect too much in this world. Know how to surrender unto the Supreme Person, attain to the eternal kingdom. Yeah. So he knows how to surrender to the Supreme Lord at the right time. So such a person achieves what? Eternal kingdom. Yeah. So he will achieve to the Vaikuntha planets. So these are the qualities one should imbibe so that he can achieve Lord. Yeah. Please read this. It's a very important purport.
The surrendering process is described here very nicely. The first qualification is that one should not be deluded by pride, because the conditioned soul is puffed up, thinking himself the Lord of material nature. It is very difficult for him to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should know by the cultivation of real knowledge that he is not Lord of material nature. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the Lord. When one is free from delusion caused by pride, he can begin the process of surrender. For one who is always expecting some honor in this material world, it is not possible to surrender to the Supreme Person. Pride is due to illusion. For although one comes here, stays for a brief time, and then goes away, he has the foolish notion that he is the Lord of the world. He thus makes all things complicated, and he is always in trouble. The whole world moves under this impression. People are considering the land, this earth, to belong to human society, and they have divided the land under the false impression that they are the proprietors. One has to get out of this false notion that human society is the proprietor of this world. When one is freed from such a false notion, he becomes free from all the false association caused by familial, social, and national affections. These faulty associations bind one to this material world. After this stage, one has to develop spiritual knowledge. One has to cultivate knowledge of what is actually his own and what is actually not his own. And when one has an understanding of things as they are, he becomes free from all dual conceptions such as happiness and distress, pleasure and pain. He becomes full in knowledge, then it is possible for him to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
So very nicely described, many important points in this. One should know by the cultivation of real knowledge that he is not Lord of their material nature. Who is the real Lord of the material nature?
The Supreme
Krishna.
Lord
Yeah.
Krishna. So the material nature is actually under him, right? Maya adhyakshena prakriti. Maya is me. Krishna is saying this. Maya adhyakshena prakriti. Right? So that is this word, this line fits that. I know that verse that Krishna spoke. When one is free from delusion caused by pride, he can begin the process of surrender. Delusion caused by pride means some people in this world think out of pride, they are the proprietor, owner, or they're the boss or whatever, right? So things like that. But actually nobody can claim to be proprietor, because over a period of time, people die and people leave everything in this world, right? So what is the point in saying, I am the richest person, Jeff Bezos says, and say after some years he dies? Where is his property? He and his property are detached now, right? So even though people claim certain things, it is on a temporary basis. Never that they are going to be, somebody says, I'm the most beautiful person. How long can you stay as beautiful? Maybe 15 more years, 20 more years. That's it. After that, you are not anymore the most beautiful. So in this way, anything that you think you are lord of, or your master, or you are proud of, one should understand actually nothing really belongs to me, and everything belongs to God, and I'm only a temporary trustee for the objects in my possession. That is what one should understand. If he understands that he is just a trustee, he is not the owner, then everything can be used in the service of God. Because he thinks that, okay, my wife, my children, everybody is children of God first before my children. So in this way, as they see, their actions will purify them, right? So for one who is always expecting some honor in this world, it is not possible to surrender to the Supreme Lord, right? If one is expecting honor, honor means what? He is thinking himself to be better than others, right? And he expects respect from others, as if he is, he's a very good person. Expecting some honor. If you ever expect honor in your life, you can never surrender to God. That is period, because you believe you are better than others, and that is not bhakti. Bhakti means you actually think everybody else is better than you as a devotee, right? So as long as you have such considerations, you cannot surrender to yourself to God. Pride is due to illusion, for though one comes here, stay for a brief time, and then goes away, he has foolish notion that he is the Lord of the world. Yeah, that's what we discussed. People come here, stay for some time, go away, but they think they are the Lord of the world while living there. He thus makes all things complicated and is, He thus makes all things complicated, and he's always in trouble. The whole world moves under this impression. Everybody in this world think they are the Lord of all the survey. Most people. So people are considering all these things as their property, but actually No, they have divided the land under false impression that they are the proprietors. But who, earth has no owner, it is on its own for millions of years. It's all like these exchanges are all only temporary things. One has to get out of this false notion that the human society is the proprietor of this world. Human society is the proprietor of this world. One should understand that. Is not false notion that human society is the proprietor. Means human society is not the proprietor of the world. Right? God is the proprietor of the world. Yeah. So after this stage, one has to develop spiritual knowledge. One has to cultivate knowledge of what is actually his own, what is actually not his own. One should come to cultivate that kind of knowledge. And when one has an understanding of things as they are, he becomes free from all dual concepts such as happiness and distress, pleasure and pain. He becomes fully knowledge. Then it is possible for him to surrender to the Supreme Lord. All the dualities will go away as soon as one understands and surrenders to the Supreme Lord. Any questions on this verse? Or any other verse that we discussed so far? Yeah. So one who is free from these qualities, he is eligible to go back to Godhead. And how do you develop these qualities? Anyone? False, free from false prestige, illusion, false association, understand eternal, who are done with material lust. I don't want to seek after betterment of material life, right? One who is done with material lust, who are free from the dualities of happiness and distress. Right? People who are free from these two characteristics, dualities of happiness and distress, and who unbewildered know how to surrender and unto the Supreme Person to attain eternal kingdom. Those are the qualities needed for one to achieve the eternal spiritual world. Okay. Let's go through PPT quickly. So the first section is becoming detached from the material world, the reflection of the spiritual world. We discussed about the banyan tree, right? So the summary is one should detach himself from the material world, which reflects the spiritual world, and one should surrender to Krishna and attain the spiritual world. Right? So this material world is like a reflection of a banyan tree. There are many offers here, many fruits. You think that you can be happy in this world, you swim fast from one branch to the other branch in the river. But it's not nothing. There is no mango tree. There is no reality of the tree. You're only searching after one thing after the other in the reflection. You will never be satisfied because it's a reflection. It's not reality, right? So that is the first lesson. And how do you get out of it? You can get out of it by surrendering to the Supreme Lord, right? And attain the spiritual world. Yeah. Material world is an upside banyan tree. That is the first verse. Second verse is why entire material world is compared to a banyan tree. For one engaged in fruitive acts, there is no end to this banyan tree, and which is very, very deep rooted. One wanders from one branch to the other with no end. See, this is the spiritual world. This is the perverted reflection in the material world. You see that this is the material world. It also has the structure of the tree, has the branches, it has the leaves. If it has fruits, it will also have fruits. Everything is there. You think you can, it's all good, it's all real. This world looks like everything is perfect and real. But actually, this is not the real. It's actually whatever you're seeing in this world, it's a reflection of the real thing in the spiritual world. Why entire material world is compared to a banyan tree? For one, because people in this world, they go from one thing to the other all the time, right? So they're searching for happiness in the river water, on this perverted reflection of the real banyan tree. They'll never be happy. What is the purpose of Vedic hymns? To elevate oneself gradually from material conditioning to spiritual conditioning. Why understand this tree of illusion? Why should we even understand about this? One who understands this indestructible tree of illusion can get out of it by sword of detachment. Right? So by sword of detachment, one can get out of this material world, right? The sword is really the principle of detachment. Means doing everything with attachment to Krishna. When you do with attachment to Krishna, naturally detachment comes. You don't. Vairagya is not something that we explicitly practice in Krishna consciousness. The detachment is a byproduct of attachment to Krishna and Krishna consciousness, right? We are always mindful of Krishna. Where is the question of trying to be detached? Detachment is given because of your surrender to Krishna. What's the process of extrication? Devotion service is the best way as explained by all the chapters. Detachment from material activities and process of attachment by transcendental service. Right? So detachment from material happens by engaging in the service of the Lord, right? So we don't explicitly detach. We we make the time spent for detachment to zero by engaging ourselves fully in the process of attachment to Krishna, right? So when there is when there is clear attachment to Krishna, there is no question of detachment from the material world. It's not needed. It's byproduct. Just like that example is different. Yeah, so that is how detachment works. We don't detach, but we try to attach to Krishna. That's how we automatically achieve detachment. If you compare other processes like Jnana Yoga or Karma Yoga, they actually explicitly demand one should have developed detachment. But Bhakti Yoga is not like that. Bhakti Yoga is where you detach yourself by attaching more to Krishna, because there is no time left for you to be detached from anything or express your attachment to anything. So I think we can end here. We are almost time. Any questions on these 5 verses or any other verses? No questions. I hope things are clear.
Basically, pride is the summary is like we should not have pride. We should surrender to God. That's the.
Yeah, that is also true. Yeah. One who is pride, he will never be able to. What is the word used? Surrender. One cannot surrender. If you think you are better than others, you can never surrender to God. That doesn't work like that.
Correct.
Right? So why should we zero pride? Okay. Anything else? Otherwise, we'll end the call here. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you,
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.